nothing abnormal, sir. Up until the day some matches we would find out from her, but she never falls sick.
అసలు ఏమైంది ఇంక్రెడిబుల్ డే టైం కలిగేసి నాకు అర్థం కాదు.
Also you hang on there, just listen to what Nikita is presenting, and then you will get to present. Okay. You just listen.
Yes.
So Nikita continue.
For primary schooling was done at her home base itself, sir. That is nearby Nalgonda, 40 kilometers from Nalgonda, sir. And then for secondary schooling, she used to do up and down. It's not exactly like a hostel, but from her cousin's place, sir, she used to travel back and forth. And then for intermediate, she was joined in proper hostel, sir. But due to the COVID time, they discontinued the hostel and brought her home, sir. And in the hostel stay, which is 4 months prior to this episode, she developed scabies, sir. So they were telling that in the face, she had this itching thing, and that was like that was spread from the neighboring students. So she had some history of scabies.
Once you is getting new to yourself, once you is new to yourself for some time, no, but you keep on and keep seeing us, but mute your side. Mute. Yeah, Nikita continue.
Yes, sir. So she had scabies for which topical creams and she had some soaps were used, sir, and within 1 month it decreased. This is all 3 months prior to this episode that happened 2 days back, sir. So one day before the episode, she just normally went to wash the clothes. She ends up in farm work and all that. So she did not have any fever or any other symptoms like that. When she went to wash the clothes, she swam in the river, sir. River. But she usually does that also. And in the river when she was swimming, she had a minor trauma to the head, sir. I mean, it's not exactly a rock, but she hit something hard. There was no bleeding and no phobia or headache immediately after that. But the next day after this incident, she started saying that her head is aching. So then her family thought that it's because of the injury, sir. So they just took her to an R&B and she got injections for her headache. Then after that, the same evening, she started having severe ear pain and then she had loss of consciousness, sir. And this loss of consciousness was for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And during the ear pain itself, she started saying that blurring of vision was also there. So loss of consciousness for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, she threw her first episode of DTCC, momentary movements associated with frothing. And there was no picturation or the defecation, sir, in the course. So all the 4 limbs involuntary movements, and they rushed her to the hospital. At the time they rushed her to the hospital itself, she threw another episode in the vehicle, sir. GTCS itself, as described by them. Then in the other hospital, first immediately they tried parietal area, and they gave a differential of it could be infective or it could be a ischemic lesion because it was hypodense on the CT. So with that history in that hospital, she again threw around 4 to 5 episodes, each with a gap of 1 hour. So they said you need to be referred to a higher center, and they've sent us here. So the next day morning, she was discharged from the hospital, and she arrived at Kamini around 11:30, 12, sir. So at the time of admission, first initially in casualty, she was given lorazepam 8 mg, sir, as per the stay-based protocol because she was having recurrent seizures. So they went with 4 mg and then another 4 mg, so 8 mg, and then they also gave levetiracetam 1 gram, sir. Even with that, her seizures were getting controlled. She took on GTCS every 15 minutes, but the thing is, sir, these are very brief. They are only about 10 seconds, and she's regaining consciousness 30 seconds immediately after the episode. And the inter-epidural period, she's very oriented, sir. So these were multiple episodes. Because of that, she was shifted to the ICU, sir. In ICU, we went ahead and gave another antiepileptic, sodium valproate 800 mg, sir, as per her body weight. And then with that also, she continued to these seizures, sir. And they were associated with intermittent frothing also. Like every other seizure episode had intermittent frothing. And then the antiepileptics were escalated, sir. So again, phenytoin loading dose was also given, sir. Then we stopped at that and we stopped. So at that time, she was throwing one every 15 minutes, and for a span of 1.5 hours, sir, she drew around 9 to 10 seizures. So with this 9 to 10 seizures, interictal period is good. She's recognizing, till she throws a seizure, she's very fine, sir. She's talking and all of that. So we started increasing the midazolam infusions, sir, as per the whole weight requirement. Loading dose was given like around 0.2 mg per kg, and what it was given is we considered her like a pediatric age group, so since she was 17. So according to her age and body weight, up to 80 mg per hour could be given, sir. But we went slow on that because all of the loading doses were given on the previous day. So we slowly escalated, sir, and the frequency of the seizures, it started coming down. So up till 9:30 to 10:30 p.m., sir, frequency decreased, sir. Per hour she was getting only 2. So then from 10:30 p.m., when at that point of time, it was 10 mg per hour, sir, midazolam that she was receiving, along with the regular medication. So we thought of escalating it to thiopentol and intubating in case she goes into cluster episodes again. Like she's getting it in clusters, sir. If there's an aggravated episode, she'll get around 9 per hour. Otherwise, she'll be seizure free for the rest of the time. So then what we did was, at 10:30 she was responding well to the midaz infusion. She was not sedated at all. She was very conscious, very okay. So we kept it at that. And at 2:30 a.m. she had another episode. And from 2:30 a.m. to next day 10:30, she was seizure free, sir. And then from next day, from Sunday morning, again she started throwing clusters, sir, like 9 to 10 per hour. And we wanted to get the MRI done also, sir. We spoke to Venkateswar on the presenting day itself, and our first difference was CSVT, sir. Because the CT showed, and because she's a young female and there was anemia as well, she had a HB of 8.4, sir. And no fever history, but maybe dehydration activated it, we thought. So
you think that history of trauma was just a coincidental thing?
No, sir. We tried to attribute it, sir. Maybe, but how did that precipitate something that was already there?
So quickly,
Do we find the link?
Yeah, like CSVT so quickly developing after the trauma.
Yes, sir. Because till then she never ever complained of headache, neck pain, or any other neurological symptoms, sir.
But is it possible that the trauma caused the CSVT? Quick onset of CSVT following trauma? Is it possible?
Yes, we didn't consider that, sir.
So we may have to review the literature on CSVT and trauma.
CSVT and trauma.
Brain
This is not
trauma,
exactly
CSVT.
CSVT, sir. She doesn't have it in the sinus area. She has it in the superficial veins that drain to it, sir. It's only cortical venous thrombosis, and because of that, she has an intercranial hemorrhage also in the temporal lobe, superior part of temporal, and the midline shift of foramen massive. So both have occurred at the same time.
So
that
where is
hemorrhage,
the hemorrhage?
seated in temporal lobes, so same side, superior part of temporal lobes. So, but that the original CT did not pick up, sir. So we are thinking could be after.
Could it be a hemorrhagic infarction, like a venous congestion?
It's a hemorrhagic infarction itself, but it's in a venous territory, sir, not in an artery.
So venous hemorrhagic infarction.
Yes, venous hemorrhagic infarction. So
because of venous blockage,
yes,
in arterial blockage, what will happen is there is arterial ischemia, necrosis, and there even the diabetes which causes hemorrhagic infarction, I don't know where from the diabetes happens. The RBC is coming out. Probably that also happens in the capillaries. The capillaries, as you know, are both having the arterial and venous ends. So which end of the capillary the RBC start coming out? That
depends on the source.
And similarly, if there is a venous congestion, blockage, so if the blood is not able to go back, it might be wanting to come out. It will just come out.
And they are not that compliant like the arteries, maintain the pressure. So on less compliant, so venous hemorrhage is common in these. But the cause for that we will evaluate immediately, sir. Our control was to give her at least a 24 hour of
So what we need to do is we need to review the literature on trauma and venous thrombosis and venous hemorrhagic infarction.
Yes.
Because these are the things which you are seeing. So not only that, you have to share with us the images of an MRI, those representative images.
Yes.
Okay. So let's quickly take a look at Vamshi as to what he has to tell us.
Okay.
In the meantime, thank you, Nikita. Yes, Vamshi. Yes, Vamshi from ICU. Yeah, can you unmute yourself? Vamshi from ICU.
Atrial septal defect was found, sir, and she has chronic rheumatic heart disease, for which she is explained and she was sent to other higher centers, sir, where surgeries and for aortic closure was done, and she is on ecosprin and benzathine penicillin, and during surgery she has anemia, sir, for which two PRPs are transfused, and after 15 days she is discharged. No other complaints afterwards. And again after 6 months again she has for general checkup she went, sir. It was found she has anemia and she is advised for another transfusion. But since she did not have any complaints or any symptoms, transfusion was not done, sir. 6 months ago she is married. From 4 months she's having again gum bleeds, spontaneous gum bleeds intermittently, and she also
We don't have much time, just 5 minutes for you. So can you just tell us in brief? Yeah, the current challenges. Just tell us the current challenges. What are the current challenges you are facing right now? Who is the most ill patient and what are you doing for that patient? What are your thoughts on that patient? They are not able to hear you. Not well audible. Yeah, check your sound system. Yeah, continue. Yeah, talk. Start talking. Are you able to hear us? Yeah, you are audible now. Continue. Talk. Huh. 2 weeks. Yeah, she is in which bed? First bed in the left side. No? Yeah, don't show them because we don't want to see the identifiers. You can show some aspects of them, but not their face or anything. We have to take care of that. Okay. So she is the same patient we had seen. Yeah. She is the same patient we saw in the morning, isn't it? Yeah, OPD 2 patients we sent just now. They are fine, isn't it? They are just mild COVID. And they have to be just under observation, that's all. Isn't it? Their SpO2 should be normal now. Respiratory rate is anyway normal. And they just need to be under observation, that's all. Huh? 25 only. Yeah, this patient, which one are we talking about? Is it the morning patient or the new patients? Yeah, one of them. Yeah. So of the two patients who were sent in the afternoon, you are talking about one of them. And that person. Huh? Huh? Yeah, I already seen both. Yeah, both these two patients also I have seen in the OPD. Yeah, I have seen these two patients also in the OPD. And they are seeming to be alright. They don't have tachypnea. SpO2 should also be normal. And these patients SpO2 normal? These two? The new two patients which I sent from the OPD, isn't their SpO2 normal?
91 by 92 one day.
Huh.
91 by 92.
Which lady is that? One lady is from Hyderabad and another is from nearby Nalgonda. So which one is 91, 95? Okay, I think anyway it's better when you text. Better that you text us because yeah, it's getting to be time. So once you are able to text us that detail. Huh? Okay.